All right, video number 85. So yeah, so I guess let me just preface this kind of say yesterday was good. I think we kind of took it very specific and I kind of want to do a little bit of that today, but I do think I kind of have to catch you up on all the basically what happened over the past weekend, the past week, because that was, that's a lot of kind of what was really going on versus, kind of visionary talking stuff, which is also important, but not, yeah, different. So yeah. So basically, had a lot of meetings over the weekend, a lot of good, well, over the week, I guess, right? But just it's been a few days. There's been a lot of connections made, a lot of good talks about kind of we're finalizing on the competitions. So we're pretty much final on the rule book for the climber competition. In terms of the power beaming competition that we're doing, we're still not 100% sure on everything. It's being fully decided. We should finalize pretty much our plan within the next few days. And then yeah, just finalizing a rule book and then basically launching it, right? Social media team is doing great. We're building up that, and it's a time thing, right? Because a lot of social media is being consistent and being active and building a credibility, right? Because a lot of people on social media, when they get on social media, they look at a brand. If there's nothing posted there or there's nothing there, they're not going to follow it. And that's just how it goes. And that's part of building it up, right? So we have to build up our value, I guess. And I also build up kind of a reason, right? There's not much that really drives someone into to understanding what we're doing simply, right? You have to basically look at our stuff and hear about it. And that's what the website is. That's what, marketing is. That's what marketing is all about. That's what media is all about. And that's what getting out there is, right? We're getting out there into the world, building our name, right? We're building a name for ourselves as the world's space elevator competition. So that's been pretty good in terms of that. A little bit of advice stuff there. Got caught in a just it's been a wild week in a good way. But yeah, a lot of planning, a lot of scheduling, and that's something that I'm realizing is harder and harder. And hope to, hopefully we're gonna have a unofficial but sort of a board meeting this week. And that's where we'll hopefully decide these kind of stuff and really figure that out. What I would like to go over today, and something I was saying previously, is kind of what was I saying? The cultural stuff. So about our culture, I went and redid basically yesterday. This was a lot of the work yesterday and 2 days ago, a little bit, but mostly yesterday. Just a lot of basically going over our uh, the bylaws, code of conduct, conflict of interest policy, and basically writing up an organizational document, which basically describes how we want to function as an organization. Now, I want to go over, I guess, they're each kind of long, and some of them, I'm sure the conflict of interest policy is not something that really, it's a very specific thing for our company, not interesting, I guess. Or maybe it is. I may go over it because that might be interesting if you're building a business or something. Because yeah, it's important to know these type of stuff. Or well, what I'm realizing is it's not important. I mean, it's important to know these stuff and important to have a organization, but even more than that, it's a lot about having it written down, right? Having it official in a way where this is what it is and there's nothing you can do about it, right? That's what it is. It can get amended, it can get changed, and that's what you include in the policy, right? We include how we would change this policy in the future, but it's still about, this is the policy, this is what we have, it's written in stone, or, it's written down, and that's that. You follow it or else, basically. Um, yeah, so that's that. And so the organizational one though is creative, like, or more, that's our brand, that's how we organize, and that's a little bit of the international aspect of the fact that we're over different time zones, and very importantly, is our speed, which is super important. The most important things to us, right, is, I mean, I think the most important things to most businesses, but we're really trying to find this fine line between efficient and quick decision making, but also well-informed and smart decision making, which is, again, the two pillars of business, really, but what we need to be doing, right? Again, bylaws are kind of also an internal document, doesn't really matter. Mission, vision, yeah. So let me go over the organizational structure, which is really kind of in a lot of ways unique to us. Um, but yeah, so I'll basically go over that. So essentially starts off with just our mission, our vision. Um, you know what I should probably do? I'm gonna actually share my screen because then you can see what I'm saying. Share, share, go, share. Now we see this. Let me just see if I can do 1 second screen recording. How do I do it? There we go. Not like this. 1 second. It should be, I'm gonna reshare this. Oh, here we go. Do it like that. Now you now you can see me. Um, okay. So pretty much simply, our mission, of course, like I've gone over a lot of times though, is to educate and inspire the next generation. And the next generation is a word that I want to use, but at the same time, we're not focused on the next generation, right? We're also the current generation, and but basically pushing advancement and using the development of space elevator technology and this drive for that as an international competition, and basically foster gaining, problem solving and these technologies will be developed further. So that's basically our mission, right? The vision is overall to become a self-sustaining global competition, esteemed competition that will educate people and will keep driving. And again, scaling, right? I mean, the space elevator, I think, is a pretty ambitious and very big goal, which again will happen. But past that, right? Again, long term, but we can really create something that shows and goes beyond single competitions beyond right I mean teaching us to go for goals that are beyond what we currently think. So big projects, right? Space elevator is a great one, but there's other, I mean, other space stuff, space habitats, things like that. But we can make focusing on ending global hunger or homelessness or so many things, right? There's so much that this could scale to, and if we prove that this method and this type of system of pushing technology to grow by giving it a reason to, and if this works, right? And again, which it should, but if this really works, what's going to happen is, we can turn this into something much bigger. But again, that's years and years away. The focus right now is the space elevator, which, like I said, is super ambitious as it is, and is likely something that's going to take at least a good 10 years or so to see, or I mean longer to be built and stuff probably, but or not, who knows? But I'm just saying based on standard where I think the world is right now. So introduction is basically our goal, like I said, is our focus is on informed decision making, which is about making smart decisions. And again, this is just a written up document, but yeah. And then basically being efficient, right? We need to make sure that we're smart about our stuff, but at the same time, a lot of smart stuff or a lot of ends up being bureaucracy, which basically means, right, just a lot of levels up. And what happens is no one can make a decision or no one can do something without going up the ladder, and that slows you down, right? At the end of the day, we see that in government, we see that in a lot of businesses, but it slows you down, right? So again, you want some type of bureaucracy because you don't want to have individuals just making decisions on impulse or on stuff. You do want to have a strategy for it and how what you need to talk to other people about. But again, everyone also knows their stuff and things like that. So uh, the way we're organizing, and this again, this is always a start, and that's kind of the whole thing that I keep talking about is we're an evolving organization as WSpec, but even not WSpec, all companies, right? We're evolving, we're constantly growing, and part of these type of plans is part of this is creating a strategy to have a quick growing company. Part of it is on the international side, right? The fact that we are all around the world is important. But what we're going to build here, right, regardless of whether it fails, whether it succeeds, right, or fails, we're going to build a system, right? And that system will teach us a lot of lessons for the future. And that's what it is, right? So this is the first step of that system. This is really that the one that we're starting with, but it'll evolve. I'm sure there will be small changes here and there. It may be perfect, I don't know, but we'll see over time, right? There will be stuff that we'll run into. But again, it's supposed to be all encompassing. It's supposed to be covering the whole idea. And then that's what it's doing. So, okay, back to this. Board diversity and composition. The point is we do want to have a board of maximum of 5 people, or five, or not less, though, 5 people, each of them encompassing one of the main pillars of the company. And this is kind of, the 5 core strategies of, I think, most companies. I think most companies could be diversified into these 5 core strategies. You could split it up more, you could split it up less. Obviously it depends on the company, but again, 5 is a good number. 5 people is also a very good number for meetings, to have enough people that you have a good decision, but not enough people that it slows you down. Right? I think having 3 people is great, but 3 people is limiting in the amount of people. You always want an odd number because voting and everything, you do kind of want an odd number. Yeah, and 5 is kind of that first at that point, right? That's 5. That's why. Now, the 5 pillars that we have, and these have been thought out, is we have the image pillar, right? The image of the company. That's the brand. It includes here it's public relations, HR, marketing, human resources, culture, external communications, and anything else that would come into the image of the company, right? How people see the company and how we see the company. There's the operations pillar. So that's the operation side, right? That's covering the actual operations of the business. The day-to-day work, right? So yeah, logistics for in our case, the competitions, the event planning, volunteer team management, right? And then customer relations, things like that. Um, and then there's the financial pillar. That's dealing with the financial side of it, the financial health. That's deals with fundraising, partnerships, sponsorships, and yeah, donor management, things like that, right? That's dealing with the money, yeah, driving the revenue into the company, and then and in a way, spending the money, right, on certain things. And that's the financial side. Then there's the advisory pillar, and this is very important for us, but this is very important in general, and this is a pillar that this is basically where our sponsors and additional outside partners get represented, right? They're 1/5 of the board, and they are represented by the advisory pillar, which ends up being a single person who represents this. But basically, the advisory pillar is functions slightly differently than the other pillars because they're not operating. It's more advice, right? But it's a lot of advice, a lot of constant thing, and yeah, just really driving that from legal counseling, right? Financial counseling, strategic counseling. It basically covers all the other pillars, but in an advisory way, where it's not the one actually doing it, but more the one that understands it or plans it or has the ideas for it, right? And this board will end up being people with experience, right? Retired people, young people, right? People that have experience doing things that can advise us. I'm really running out of time. Okay. Then there's the organizational pillar, which that's head by the CEO, and that's really just the organization, the actual running of the company, the actual operations that kind of includes everything too, but it adds an individual person. In a way, it's like the advisory pillar, but more the decision maker side of the advisory pillar, right? So there's those two things. But that becomes, yeah, one person or the people really, running the company are part of that organizational pillar. Now, there's the officer roles. So we just have the chairperson, secretary, and treasurer. This is just standards, that you want to have for an organization like this or a nonprofit. The chairperson is just going to be the person who's in charge of the organizational. So would be the CEO. The secretary is the person in charge of the image, and that's just the person that takes care of that. And treasurer is the financial pillar, which again just makes sense, right? That's just logical. There's the board meeting procedures. Yep, we have a monthly meeting, and a vote will be held with. We need to have all 5 board members to vote. And if you're not there, we have vote by proxy, which is something like that. And basically, what can happen is you can have someone else in your pillar, or you can set someone else. Yeah, basically, you could set anyone from your respective pillar to act as your proxy in case of that. Record keeping again will all be formalized, properly done. Again, that's part of the official part of this document. The committee reporting structure, and this is the plan for as we scale down, or as there's more committees, right? Obviously, the pillar committees are led by the board members, and basically that's the main committee. The pillar committee. So each of the pillar committees, right, which are led by the person that's on the board, are the committee. Now, for example, the financial committee will end up being could be split up, right? Into what we'll call them is I'm sorry, into committees, right? And um yeah, I think this is phrased wrong now that I'm saying this. So there will be a small change. But basically, those are the committees, and then there's the subcommittees that take care of that. And then each decision-making group will be a maximum of 5 people, right? So any committee, and a maximum of 3 levels down. So meaning we can have the pillar, then we can have that pillar can get split up. So let's say we have the financial, and let's say that gets split up to donations, sponsorships, and yeah, and account management, right? Or let's just donation sponsorships. Now, each of those committees can have as many people as they want, as long as there's nothing else underneath it, right? Once we say, okay, now organizations, we want to split up to outreach and returning, right? And that then becomes another level. Now, we can't have more than 5 of those levels, right? So as it scales down, right, we can have a maximum of 3 levels. So the board, the pillars, then each of those pillars have committees, and then whatever's beyond that. Um, then there's elections and memberships, which is basically, just defining kind of what a membership is and what puts them into that advisory committee. This would basically put them as an active member, and then well, not an active committee, but then they get to vote. They get to vote on the board members or on who represents that, on who represents the committees. There's the board of directors election process, right, every year. And basically, the point is that each of these 5 members, each of the board members, um, they vote within their own rank. So within those 5 people, they vote between those 5 of who should represent them in the board for that year. I think that's the best way to do that now. Again, then there's hiring and onboarding, which is basically each committee is responsible for hiring within their committee, but the CEO's authority is on top of that. Basically, to see everything. And then there's conflict of interest policy, which is a separate policy, like I said. But simply, it's just, you have to have a real reason for why you're doing it. We need to really understand and agree that that's a need. And this is just for conflict of interest. And then, voting system that we have is just an online voting system is the plan, or not as the plan is, we're online voting system. So, you have to vote within 24 hours, and then that's that. So basically we're guaranteeing that we're moving. And yeah, and then documentation review, and that just basically states that, yes, this can get changed with 4 or 5 vote, and also will be reviewed every single year for accuracy and to keep it up to date. So either way, hope that made sense. Way over time, so hope you enjoyed. Hope this all makes sense. And yeah, we're moving somewhere, so really cool. Either way, good luck.